Turkiye's Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu has made a landmark visit to Cairo, where he met his Egyptian counterpart Sameh Shoukry. The meeting comes just weeks after Shoukry visited Turkiye in a show of solidarity following the February 6 earthquakes that devastated the country's south. Both visits were the first of their kind in a decade, and expectations are high that full diplomatic relations will be restored soon.
As we improve our bilateral relations with Egypt, we don't discuss what we can do for the benefit of both countries. But beyond that, our relations should be normalized for the stability of the region and for the economic development of the regional countries.
Relations between Ankara and Cairo broke down in 2013 after the overthrow of Egypt's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi. The two countries also found themselves on the opposite side of the war in Libya and during the 4-year-long blockade of Qatar by several Arab states. But in 2021, consultations between Turkish and Egyptian officials began as part of Ankara's wider rapprochement with the region. And at last year's FIFA World Cup in Doha, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan briefly met with his Egyptian counterpart, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. And to further discuss the Turkish Foreign Minister's visit to Cairo, joining me now from London is Wafik Moustafa. He is the chairman of the British Arab Network. And from Istanbul, Vehbi Baysan. He is an associate professor at Haldun University. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. So, Wafik, the Turkish Foreign Minister paid a landmark visit to Egypt, the first such visit by Turkiye's top diplomat since the relations were cut a decade ago. Talk to us about the significance of this visit.
It's a very significant visit, particularly resuming relationship between Turkey and Egypt is point step for stabilizing the Middle East. As you know, the Middle East 13 years ago there was a military coup in Egypt. Indeed, 1,000 people were killed, and Turkey took certain moral, political position toward Egypt at the time, towards the regime. At the moment is to contain the situation, particularly with the post or near the end of Ukraine war, where Egypt needs Turkey, Turkey needs Egypt. But Turkey has got a historical role, not just must realize that the Middle East, including Egypt, were formed in 1922, 100 years ago, after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. And always been tied to Turkey historically for a long time, for probably 600 years. And I think it's very important to use the good office of Turkey to improve the shipment of wheat to Egypt from Ukraine, from Russia, to help, particularly banking system in Egypt. And above this, Turkey is the only democracy and only in the Middle East and only in the Muslim world, probably.
Yes.
So it does help a lot, and very big country as well. So I think it's very important for stability of Egypt and Middle East, Turkey to be involved in the Middle East.
So, Vehbi, what has been achieved at the meeting? I mean, does a decision to reappoint ambassador as soon as possible mean that the two country leaders will also meet soon?
Yeah, there's a strong reference to, let's remember, when Mr. President Sisi and President Erdogan shook hands during the World Cup in Qatar. So after that, we can see that the relations are really like as fast as possible, let me say it this way, restored. And now two countries will be re-establishing the diplomatic ties which cut in 2013 in a decade. So that's extremely important. But also here, I would like to give special reference to Foreign Minister, Mr. Sameh Shoukry's visit after the Turkey hit by this disastrous earthquake to show his solidarity. So now these two countries in the region, I always support that they should get back to business, because I would here like to use White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan's tweet was saying that this is an important step towards a more stable and prosperous region, which that's what Middle East absolutely need. These are two big countries with obviously a lot of challenges in terms of population as well as economy now, as our guest quite rightly pointed out, to Ukraine and what's happening in Russia. These two countries relied heavily on food supplies, and those two economies need to reestablish the links as well. And
Yes.
of course, let me say it in the beginning, if you permit me, Ayşe, is that the Turkish companies waiting to do investments in Turkey, and according to observers, is up to $500 million.
So, Wafik, would normalization with Egypt be as easy as the other Gulf and Middle Eastern countries? I mean, is this one proving to be more difficult, and what are the challenges before a full restored ties between the two countries?
There is a challenge, no doubt, because there have been historical rivalry between Egypt and Turkey over the last 70 years since the 1952 coup. Egypt stood shoulder to shoulder with Turkey. And there have been a lot of challenges, actually. And I feel Turkey play as a bridging role with Europe, with the NATO, with Europe physically, with industry, with democracy, with establishing institutions. The Arab world needs Turkey, Egypt needs Turkey, because they need to establish country. The Egyptian pound have collapsed to 40 to sterling, which is very low. It's almost disappearing. Lebanon is the same. Iraq is the same. Syria is the same. So I think it's very important for Turkey to play a role in the Middle East, historical role, particularly after 100 years of failed to establish a proper states in the Middle East system, and particularly the realignment now of Gulf countries like United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia with Iran, and then the realignment between United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia with Israel,
Yes.
Turkey. I think it's a big triangle. It's going to isolate people in the west of Suez.
Yes.
So I think Turkey's role is very important.
So, Vehbi, you've mentioned despite the rupture in relations, both countries have managed to maintain their trade ties. But how do you think Turkey and Egypt can cooperate when it comes to regional problems, from turmoil in Libya and disputes in the Eastern Mediterranean?
Well, no doubt Egypt and Turkey at odds in terms of Libya, but also in addition to that, Eastern Mediterranean, turning that area into an energy hub. This is to say that supplying Europe with petrol flow as well as gas. Now, Turkey in the past opposed that, wanted to be part of that those developments. But I think challenges are good. It makes you think again and again about the relations and what is important. And probably both countries will be instrumental in stabilizing Libya, because it really needs outside help, but not only help like pouring in money and all that, but those Turkey and Egypt can play a significant role mediating between the opposing sides. Also, no doubt that the new Middle East need further cooperation, diplomatic, economic, and my dream in higher education too, to stabilize and think about the Middle East from now to 20 to 50 years, what happens there, because the world is changing. And I think tackling challenges and working on it together is more important than having ruptures and cutting relations.
Yes.
So therefore, I'm very optimistic.
So, Wafik, are you optimistic, and how would a reconciliation impact the two countries' policies on Libya? I mean, could they cooperate to help the Libyan political elite to hold the long-awaited elections, or they still follow different agendas?
I would think Egyptian government, Sisi's government, will follow Turkey's lead in that sense, because we would let's realize that now there's going to be change in the world post-Ukraine world order, very similar to the post-Cold War order 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. So the world going to change. We like it, we dislike it, we don't like it. There is a big change taking place in Africa, in Asia. China's coming to Europe, and probably post-Putin, Russia will be coming near to NATO as well. So I think the important for Turkey to play a role in creating a new Arab world, new institutions, new governments, because so far, let us be if the Arab world is left in its own vices at the moment, most likely will disintegrate further, will be poorer, particularly with the energy crisis, with the food crisis. Egypt is the biggest wheat importers in the world, before China, before India. So it shows you how big the problem is. The energy is the same. Some countries are extremely rich, sometimes some countries are extremely poor. Turkey can play this bridging role in the Middle East, particularly with Europe and other Arab countries.
So, Vehbi, what should be done to get past more than a decade of mistrust between the two nations, and what kind of confidence building measures should be employed?
Well, we can rely on these. The negotiations or the meeting started years ago. It's not something new. So it seems that now we're bearing the fruits. It seems also signifies that two countries already established a trust between themselves. So it's extremely important. Now it's just probably a technicalities that they need to sort out and reestablish these diplomatic ties, and then they move on to involve in politics in the Middle East. This is to say, for a better and prosperous future there. Because let's remember that between the Gulf countries and Israel, the Abraham Accords are really did not kind of stop anywhere after even the regime change in government change in the US. So this is to say that Turkey have a lot to offer from know-how and getting back there with their companies and construction companies to the technology companies. So I think this was the time to get back on cooperating and working for the better, because that's what the people of the region need, and better relations, political relations. So hopefully this will help in the economic level, and both countries have a lot to offer to each other and benefit from each other. And
yes.
Hey, Turkey is, as Wafik said more than once, that is not a stranger to the Middle East. I mean, we live for hundreds of years together, and why not? I mean, these are like kind of little interruptions.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.